So we're going to play with Peppermills. Do I slide over here? Or I'll bring these back. So we're doing a crush grind mechanism. So there's nothing needed on the top because you'll get the other ones that have the bolt on top, the little chrome thing in here. And if you crush, I usually go like this. That little thing stabs into your hand. Women don't like that. So everything, I like these because they pop in, pop out, lock in place. They work really well. I look at the design of what on these are, and we have to think, I have like huge mitts. So over here, this doesn't bother me, but a lot of women don't have big hands. So we have to have a neck that's pretty comfortable so they can turn and crush the grind. We have to think about not ourselves. We have to think about who's going to be using this and where. So I keep my designs pretty simple because I like a little bit of color. The one on the left-hand side is curly ash, and the other one is curly maple. And other than me telling you that this is ash and this is maple, you probably wouldn't even know what the woods are. So a couple things we want to look at is the size of the knob. And George would probably agree, the one on this side right here, the top knobs are probably a little big for the design. He's shaking his head yes. So it looks a little heavy. This one here, the one on my left, if you follow rule of thirds or anything along those lines, yeah, it works good for the person's hand, but it looks really heavy on the bottom and totally unbalanced. So I kind of keep it, your thirds kind of flowing through here, but this definitely, I did it for a demo at Keim and I got carried away. This is my personal Peppermill for the house. It does have the heavier bottom, but this is designed off a chess piece. It's a bishop. And the heavier bottom definitely fits the bill. So all of a sudden, it isn't, there's rules and there's rules to break. But to me, this works where this one does not. This one has a little button on top. I just put that on there just because. But it kind of helps you when you start drilling for your top. This one, if you come up and look at it, it glows this pretty color all the way around because I got it too thin because I made my top very shallow. It works really nice for your palm, but you got to watch how deep you go. And then there's a little dot right there where I thought I tore the grain. It's actually the tip of the drill bit. So I got fortunate. But if that happens, you could always do that. But I did these just strictly for salt and pepper, strictly design. We pre-spin the lathe. We started on slow, pick up the speed. Easily we could put these in centers. We could do a slide spur here, the dead center, lock it in, do everything in here. Anytime I got enough jaws, I chuck my wood. It's as simple as that. I don't use spurs very often on a lathe just because. I like it locked in. As we start our tool, handle down, raise the handle. We're doing the dance here. turn off the lathe so I can get at the end here. Everybody pretty much knows I'm a fan of the 40-40 grind. And if you bring in your cutter straight, I already got a burr on that one. It automatically sets up for your dovetail. The question is, what size is my stock? When I started, I am at 3 inches by 3 inches. The demo tomorrow, they're using bat blanks, and we're at 2 3/4. The question is, what length is my stock? This is the longest crush grind that they make. So these are at 18 inches. So these are at 18. So you could do an 18-inch blank, maybe a 20, considering what's going on in your knob, 20, 24 inches. Immaterial. What I like about this mechanism, one, it's ceramic. That means you could crush salt with this. So if you got the pink Himalayan rocks, you put it in there, this won't get rusty, nasty, or anything along those lines. The other aspect on this grinder is I can make this any length I want because it's a press fit. So I can play with this at any length. So the difference between an 18-inch one and then I think it's a 12, I think it's the other size, is 30 cents.
How much is the long one?
I'm not sure, 13 something, 15 something. But it's like difference. And again, they give you breaks on prices. I think the last ones I bought, a dozen of them or so. But this all fits in, it's fully adjustable. Roughing gouge, if you notice, I am dancing a little bit, and I'm also raising the handle into the cutter. I'm starting at 0, raising up, and then working it in to this. Cut the dovetail on this side. So now we're working the layout on this piece. This is our bottom. This is going to be our top right in here. So we come across, and I'm figuring the knob. If we go thirds, 13. I'm looking at my knob here at 3 inches, so we could be in there. I want a nice long one in there, do a waterfall, so I might get it right about in here. And I can't believe I forgot my bedan. Normally I'd use a bedan about 3/8 of an inch. We're drilling a 1 16th inch hole through the whole thing. I need to have this smaller than that. I mean, same size, but I don't want to go too thin. So what I'm creating right now is this rim right here. There are several ways you can approach this mechanism. And you can go right through here, just cut your 5/16 hole, leave this proud, and that will fit exactly into your 1 16th hole, call it a day. But you have plastic running in a pile of wood, you have a square hole here, and you makes it a little sloppy. By doing the rim like this, it fits into the socket, so it locks in place. 2, it allows me to chamfer all this out so I become a funnel. So I don't know if you ever tried to pour pepper into a square hole. The pepper starts running all over the place. So even this one right here, I did a square hole, but you can see this establishes a funnel for your pepper to fall in. So then everything falls in, and then whoop, we're done. And we have a little bit of play.
What do you call it, a square hole? I don't understand.
Oh, the edge is square.
Oh, I see.
The edge is square. Okay, sorry. Round hole, flat edge. So by doing the taper, we create that funnel. So when we pick that little pepper and pour it in, it just falls right into there. It eliminates a lot of problems. If you talk to 20 different people that make peppermills, you will have 20 different ways of making peppermills. But they do one thing, they grind pepper. And that's the end of what you want it to do. So, right here I've established this square shoulder. I'm going to cut this, leaving a little bit of edge here. The reason for that is I don't want to sit there and figure out where this plug is. So I'm using a thin parting tool. We're dancing with it. If we go straight in, all these sides get hot, burn, and causes friction, and causes a grab. While I'm here, I'm going to change this, give me a center so my drill runs in. And I'm going to square this surface up right here. Yeah, this one will work better. So I'm using number 2 taper receivers that hold the drill versus a chuck. This will take a 10 millimeter, 2 set screws, locks in, and all of a sudden it's very quickly put in instead of going through here and tightening it up in a chuck. And I don't know how many drills I've spun in a chuck, but I've spun a lot. So this is really locking in really nice. So normally I would not be running this one this long, But this is the one that we run through the whole body of the piece. I don't like my top sticking out, so I make sure that these are flush right here. So starting out on slow, kicking up the speed a little bit. I'm setting up a recess for that piece. I'm going to go slightly deeper than I have to because I'm going to be caking part of that off. We have to drill up into for our piece to go up into it. And you can see how nice these number 2 tapers work for changing out the drill bits. So on tomorrow's class, you could easily just use a parting tool to set this groove up. Okay? I like a little radius on my piece. And I really love the auctions that we have on December because that's where this one came from, and I never would have bought one of these to save my life. But for some reason, somebody had donated it in. And we're going to take this down here. Out to there. Let's go a little deeper on this. We're going to make sure that wall there is square. And we're set. Now we're going to end up putting this on a jam chuck. And if we take my we set this in, oh, I could go a little shallower. Let's go a little shallower. I'm going to take this. Big rules, shut off your lathe before you move your tool rest. Right here, I'm doing a typical one with the ball on top. So I need to shrink this down some. And I'm going to cut the radius. Spindle gouge, handles down. We're working by raising the handle and rotating the tool as we switch our weight. Touch, rotate, square up. I'm dancing. If we don't dance like this, I can't do anything. So I'm in here, I want that weight to change. I'm going to stop there because I may have to make the adjustment once everything changes into that. Could be a little better cut, but we'll leave it for now. After Sally Alt's class, I realized that I do not have enough chucks. She has 12. I feel like I'm chuck poor. So we need to square this edge up right here, real nice. So I'm going to clean cut that. And I'm also going to reestablish my point right here. Drills have a hard time starting if they don't have a center spot, causing things to wander. We only need to drill halfway. Don't sit there and kill yourself going miles down into this. And it's easier that way. Your drill bit will start to wander. Sometimes wood's harder here in spots. So you want to sit there and drill it from both sides. So this is our top half. This is our bottom. We're starting to drill this one first, other than no particular reason. But it's here. Slow down the tool. It's easy the first few inches. That's far enough. So I have one problem here. I'm going to re-chuck it on this side, so I'm going to actually set up a chuck right in here. Another dovetail. And I'm also going to set up my radius here now. Decided that I'm doing this backwards. Let's use that one. So I'm creating my funnel right now. And we'll see how close we are right here. We're right on. And it looks like our depth is good right here. Other than a little squeaky. So we're just going to put a little radius on each side of this. I like that. I impressed myself. So now we're going to establish our bottom. I cranked the heck out of that one. I love the sound of fresh coffee. We got our bottom right here. Now, I'm going to drill this by the book. So if we look at here, and Woodcraft has all these nice things, almost. You can get the whole instructions here at Woodcraft. They have nice PDFs, have all the dimensions. If you know, they're all done in metric, which would drive half of you guys crazy. George is pleased as punch because it's metric. If you do a little multiplication or division, 25.4 is the change for metric. We're going to go 3/4 of an inch deep, then 1 7/16 deep. This is a 1 3/4 drill. They say 44 millimeters, which goes into 1 3/4. The housing, they say 38 millimeters, which is 1 1/2. So, and we're going to go 1 16 deep on that. So we're starting out with the 1 3/4. We're going to go 3/4 of an inch in. I have a piece of tape for that. Return slow, drill slow, I should say. Here's my 1 3/4. Now I need a 1 1/2. The 1 1/2 here, we need to bring it to the end of the chuck. And now we got to finish up our 1 16. And if we're really good, it'll match up with the other one. There we are. Now that wasn't all that bad, but I still remember Pete's demo on chasing threads. So Pete's demo on chasing threads, he spent an hour and 20 minutes showing how to hand thread. And we sat there all just in awe. In the last 10 minutes of the demo, think I should have put a tongue on that. Showing us how to chase threads, and he set up a router, and in 5 minutes, he got done. So they make this nice end mill. And I'm done. So it's got 2 cutters on it. They're adjustable. They're carbide cutters, and it's basically an end mill on a number 2 taper. So as you can see, it wasn't that bad for me to slip in because of the different chucks that I have all set up with the drill bits. But this operation goes very quick. So I got everything drilled out. I have the top done. And if I want to stop right now, I can call this a Peppermill, and it looks like a Doughboy or something. Those in there so they can keep everything lined up will be helpful. That's here nor there. So we're going to start here, and I'm going to trim out the bottom so we get a little thinner on the bottom before we flip it over. We're starting to look at the shape on where we want to be in here. You want this above the center line. You want that not to feel too heavy. Talking about tools for a little bit. Where do we find the cut? Where's our sweet spot in the tool? As we start to look at the witness mark here, I'm at the lower third of the tool. I'm also raising the handle to make the cut. I can't just be stationary in here. This needs to work into that radius. If I'm stationary, all I'm going to do is create a wedge, a straight line. I know everybody hates skews. As I get close to the center line, my tool handle comes up. Thing about a skew, we get very little tear out on the grain. And we make these really nice cuts of wood. We don't see a bunch of chips. We use shear cutting of the wood, and especially in this curly maple that we have right here, we don't want a lot of tear out. And even right there, because a little piece of the grain, we got to tear out because it changed the direction of the cut. I lost that cut because I didn't raise my handle up to follow this through. Right about now, we'd make a nice wood jams chuck for this. So we could put the end into that and make it all nice and wonderful. And that's what they're going to do on Sunday's class. But this is why we have different sized jaws. Now, because I made this really nice fit, I can put the whole piece back together. And I don't have to crank this up real hard, because outward pressure on that would not be wise. So I'm just going to put pressure down on it. Start it off slow. We're in great shape. Like I said, you'll find 20 different people, 20 different ways of doing this. What's nice is having nice sharp tools. I raised this up for the skew, and I didn't bring it back down. So I'm going to do this nice little waterfall. I imagine people have been doing that, marbles on top of waterfalls for ages. You see these on fence posts. You see these on decorated areas. So why, if this is not my invention, somebody else did it before. So I'm going to start that waterfall down in here, and I start the dance again. I'm moving my body. My weight's on my left foot, swinging over to the right foot. I'm rolling this down, creating that cut, establishing the bevel. Oh, that'd be nice. I left a nice mark on that. Now you're saying, wow, that's really wide. I wanted to establish that ring where we're at. I got a little hard chime right there. We're rolling the tool. I'm established, I have it anchored on the tool rest. I create the bevel, I roll the tool. It allows me to make that nice radius. I also go downhill. One of the things we want to remember, we have a hole in here. 1 1/16. All cuts are downhill. Just give it a little accent right here. Well, let's stop for a second. We're going to make a little bigger one here. So we're going to throw an accent. That's a D-way tool. Sets up a nice bead. Should have went with the larger one. We have to clean up a little bit around this, so we're going to put a little chamfer on that. Now we have to match that height back over here. I had a chip on that, so I wanted to get rid of it. That is a 40-40. These are D-Way tools. I pretty much, everything I have is 40-40. I use a V where you're not supposed to. So what happens is, because it's a V, if it's hard maple, it shreds it. I lose that tip right where I'm cutting. So where this hits on this type of cut, I create a witness mark right here. The idea is to cut the wood with the nose and shear scrape it almost like a skew on the wings coming back. So if I'm here in this 40-40 and I make this cut and I set this up, there isn't a scratch on that, and you don't see a tool mark. So that's the advantage of that. The other part of this, and I'm going with a small one here, and this is breaking the rules also, is that if I do this, I will burn the edge because of this being in this radius. So I can't turn this way. So I create my radius this way and still moving the handle. This allows me start at 0, create this dust, I push forward, still creating that shear cut. You could use a little off that neck anyways. So this allows me, I left one line in there where I started back up, but I get 0 tear out on that except for where that grain is right there. So big rule is if you draw a pencil line down the middle of your gouge, and if you see the pencil line, you're going to get a grab. My point is, if you start at 0, raise your handle, and you keep the bevel on it, you can't get a grab, only if you overextend. The idea is always keep the bevel on your work. must have been monologuing too much. So, I'm a strong supporter of Mirka sanders, sandpaper, and everything along those lines. George does us great favors by getting them to support us at the Wayne Art Center. That's a 150. So it's a 150 orange. I don't know if you heard about orange. Somebody else is selling it, like Woodcraft or somebody. I get it down in Florida. It works really good for solid surface, Corian. So on wood, it's phenomenal. It lasts quite a long time. So when we had Sandy Alt class, believe it or not, Mike literally taught me something. Because Mike was having a hard time doing this peel cut right here because he was trying to push and everything along those lines. And as I was looking at it, I said, you need to do is place your bet here and then raise your handle. And all of a sudden, what Mike took an hour and a half to do, he finished up in 15 minutes. I'm going to cheat. I'm just going to... Don't be afraid to step back and look at what you're doing so you can see if it looks balanced. The other problem is we actually drill the whole way up in here, so we got to be concerned about that also. So normally, I got this on a jam chuck, but because we're running out of time, I'm just going to leave it on here. For Sunday's class, you're going to be putting it on a jam chuck. So do as I say, not as I do. We want to leave a little bit of wood on top because we don't want to cause a divot. Shut it off too soon. I'm hoping I could burst into flames like your these cones work out really nice. I went in there with the detail gouge and left a ridge. So this piece right here snaps in. We're just going to run a little glue in there. If you ever use these guns, this is 5-minute epoxy. Make sure you bleed a little off before you use it, so it makes sure that it's all mixed. So we're just going to throw a little bead right there. And that snaps in like that. We take our mechanism right here, and we're going to run a bead of glue along this edge right in here. This snaps in. Now you can get a tool that actually cuts a groove under there. I don't know anybody that does that. Feel free. But a little epoxy in there goes a long way. Once you get it started, you need a Powermatic. So you have a couple things that you want to make sure this is still deeper, because if you don't keep it too shallow, the adjustment for this comes up shy and it starts rolling on your table. Then all of a sudden you have problems. So I'd rather go a little deeper than this than not. So they say 1.25 inches above, something like that. Depends on where that goes in. A lot of times I just put this on, see where it bottoms out. So I took my plug out, and then measure here and see how much I have to cut off. Do you know what the worst part is? I didn't bring any cutters. So I will tomorrow for the class.
Is that just aluminum you can cut it with
Just side cuts. Side cuts real easy. If we found somebody in the tool room over here, we could grab one real quick.